He has called Republican proposals to cut the deficit pathetic and said the U.S. needs major tax increases to close the budget cap. And no, he is not Nancy Pelosi. He's David Stockman, former White House budget director under Ronald Reagan. David is on the phone with us from Aspen, Colorado this morning. David, good morning to you. Let us talk about the latest movement in these debt ceiling negotiations. It appears as though Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, and his counterpart from the Republican side, Mitch McConnell, have come up with a plan. They haven't formally introduced it yet, but this idea to give Congress, or at least give a limited number of legislators the power to come to an agreement on the debt ceiling going forward, and it would require a much easier vote by Congress. It wouldn't be a free-for-all. And in exchange, of course, we would get the debt ceiling raised this time around. It hasn't been voted on by anybody, but do you think it's a reasonable proposal?
Well, I think it's too early to tell exactly what the mechanism will be. But it's just a variation of the kick the can down the road, maybe with a few bells and whistles here in the form of this commission and recommendations back to Congress. But you have to recognize that in Harry Reid and McConnell, you have two of the most accomplished double talkers in the Congress trying to come up with a deal. And what the deal will be simply is to raise the debt ceiling, pretend the crisis will go away, and then get us to a position towards the end of the year, early next year, where they can actually feed the deficit increase that they're all going to want for 2012, the election year, extend the 2% tax, payroll tax abatement, extend unemployment benefits, which are running out, extend the patch on doctors' fees.
David, I want to jump in here for just 1 second and ask you a question. What would Ronald Reagan do? People love to invoke Ronald Reagan's name. Grover Norquist likes to invoke Ronald Reagan's name. Conservatives, Republicans like to invoke his name. So you would know better than anybody. What would he do in this situation?
Well, we were in this situation. The economy was very weak. Unemployment was 10.5% in 1982. We had just gone through the ringer, really, in the battle against inflation. And in that environment, we were faced with a massive deficit. We couldn't close it with spending cuts. We were dealing with the prior year tax reduction that was too big. And reluctantly, Ronald Reagan raised taxes in combination with some substantial spending cuts. That was the TEFRA Act of 1982, adopted and signed by the president in the teeth of a very severe recession.
And there was also more tax revenue in the Deficit Reduction Act of 1984, was there not?
There was. In the 83, there was a further revenue gain. 84, there was a gain. Total over this period, 2.8% of GDP was gotten in terms of higher revenue.
So David, we have to. I'm sorry, we have to wrap up, so I want to ask you, in your opinion, there's no question Ronald Reagan, given the same situation, would raise tax revenue?
I think he would do a deal. He would try to get $3 in spending cuts for every dollar in revenue raising. That was the deal in 82. Sure, history shows that some of that didn't hold, but under the circumstance, it did a lot of good. The Republicans had that opportunity in front of them, and they've totally rejected it, and therefore I think it's just a measure of how desperate the situation really is. They will raise the ceiling, but the substantive default will continue. It will go on for years, and the fact that the bond rate is at 2.9% this morning is really mystifying.
We have to run, I'm afraid. Thank you for joining us. David Stockman, former White House budget director under Ronald Reagan.